And that brings us to Politics Monday. I'm joined now by our regular duo, Amy Walter of the Cook Political Report and host of Politics with Amy Walter on WNYC Radio, and Tamara Keith of NPR. She co-hosts the NPR podcast. Hello to both of you.
Hello.
So it's Beto time. He was out, Tam, on the trail, as we just saw, raising $6.1 million in the first 24 hours. Has that become the new measurement of whether you're going to make it as a candidate or not?
Well, it definitely is a way of sending an early signal about your strength and your potential grassroots energy. And what Beto O'Rourke did that was pretty smart is he didn't announce that on Saturday or Sunday. He announced it on Monday, which is when people are paying more attention to the news. So he got a bigger, better news cycle. And what he showed over the weekend, I mean, he had some stumbles, and we can talk about those, but those stumbles were also part of his somewhat remarkable ability to get attention in a way that some of the other candidates haven't been able to. He did this when he was running for Senate in Texas. He is able somehow to get people to pay attention to what he's doing and talk about him. Even back when he was just like on his weird vision quest where he was driving across America and blogging between the campaigns.
Right. Between the campaigns.
Yeah, people are wondering, right, is the phenom that we saw in 2018, can he recreate that? And one of those phenomenal things he did in 2018 was he raised $80 million. I mean, that is...
For a Senate race.
I can't, right, to just say those numbers. In Texas, it's just an unbelievable amount. So to have $6.1 million, what he's definitely saying, as Tam pointed out, is, look, it's still there. It didn't go away because I left Texas or I left the Senate race. I still have this core group of people who support me and are willing to write me these checks, and y'all better get ready for more of this potentially to come. The thing that is really going to be tested in these next few weeks is his durability on the trail. He was tested in Texas. He ran against Ted Cruz. There was a lot of national attention there. That's very different than running for president of the United States. In some ways, this reminds me a little bit about the Obama the Obama campaign when he first started his campaign. The same criticisms being leveled or questions being leveled at Beto came to Obama. He doesn't really have much experience. Obama won a Senate race, Beto lost it. But that was the only experience that both had had. They don't have real depth of experience legislatively. Can they last in a field that has a lot of really experienced people?
And Obama overcame those questions, but as you say, there are a number of them. And Tam, you mentioned some missteps. He made a comment about his wife and children that didn't go over so well in some quarters.
Yeah, he made this joke a few times and then realized maybe he should stop making this joke. It was something to the effect of, I help my wife sometimes while she is raising the children. And one of the questions that female candidates get a lot is, how do you do it? How are you going to do this? What about your kids? And Beto O'Rourke has young children, and he acknowledged over the weekend that maybe that joke isn't the best joke. And he also at another point talked about being someone who has white privilege. So it seemed in some ways to be sort of the education of Beto O'Rourke over the course of a few days of the campaign.
Well, it also shows the limit, too, of getting everything through very quick Twitter headlines. If you watch the entirety of that town hall, about 1 second after he says that about his wife, he says, and I miss my kids terribly, and I sure wish I could be with them, but this is really important. And so many of us wish we could be with our kids, but we know that this journey to be president is so much more important. The other thing I wanted to point out about Beto and where he is this week, it's not just that he was in Iowa, but he's going to 3 very important states. They don't have early primaries, but they were critical in the 2016 general election: Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. Every Democrat going back to 1992 won those states, but for Hillary Clinton, those states are the ones Democrats want to get back into their column.
And candidates getting attention from the media and everybody else by going there.
Right, and candidates like Amy Klobuchar, some others have also made these trips to the upper Midwest, they've gone to visit the formerly Blue Wall.
Right.
Well, and then just quickly, the other thing, he and Pete Buttigieg and some of the other candidates talking about the Supreme Court. It's interesting some of the subjects, Tam, that the candidates are already addressing.
Right.
The Electoral College, the Supreme Court, whether it's packed, which it's been moving in that direction under President Trump.
Right. And also add to that, they're also talking, some of them, about the filibuster in the Senate, the legislative filibuster, and whether that is something that, as president, they would encourage doing away with if they could, get Medicare for all or some of these other more progressive policies that Democrats are campaigning on, but that there's no way it would get through if the legislative filibuster is still in place. The candidates are pretty mixed on how they feel about that, though.
Which I think is going to be pretty consistent throughout the campaign about how far you want to go on a lot of these issues. Process isn't usually something we talk about a lot on the campaign trail. Candidates don't talk about process a lot. But after the last 8 years between the fights over the Supreme Court, the popular vote going the opposite way of the electoral vote, and of course the reality in 2018 that even when Democrats have a great year, they still aren't winning control of the Senate, makes those issues more important.
Just quickly, a polling question I want to ask Amy and then Tam about, and that is the Suffolk USA Today poll showing 50% answered, said they agree with President Trump that the Mueller investigation has been a witch hunt.
Right.
Amy, you look at polls all the time. What do you make of this?
Not surprisingly, if you look underneath those numbers, overwhelming majority of Democrats say they don't think it's a witch hunt. Overwhelming majority of Republicans think it is a witch hunt, and independents are somewhat divided. The number that I thought was fascinating, though, in that poll is it asked a whole bunch of questions about the president, about this process of Russia. And while Democrats overwhelmingly think that the president is not telling the truth about collusion, overwhelmingly think that the House Democrats should be investigating him, only 53% think that he should be impeached. So there is some natural breaking going on the part of Democrats. And that's interesting.
And just quickly, Tam, no question the White House is going to be talking about this.
Oh, absolutely. And they have been talking about the investigation, calling it a witch hunt repeatedly for months and months and months. And meanwhile, on the other side, Robert Mueller, we have not heard his voice at all the entire time. He's not out there advocating for his investigation aside from the legal filings in the cases.
But we wait. We wait.
Oh, we wait.
As we have.
Tamara Keith, Amy Walter, thank you both. Politics Monday.
Welcome.
You're welcome.